podcast coming at you on Sirius XM 99 Raw Dog and the Laugh Button Podcast Network. My sound is all messed up.
I like the way it sounds.
Okay. No, but in my ears, it's all messed up.
That's your self-esteem.
Anyway, we're waiting. Well, that's messed up, too. Let me...
But now you're messing up my sound.
You're loud. Oh, brother.
Hello? Hello?
Now I can't hear anything.
Oh my God! It's like doing a podcast with
That's
Burns and Allen.
Okay, leave it.
Yeah, but all right. Should we start over?
No, I like it. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're waiting on Josh Johnson, who is... I haven't seen him in a while. Where's he been?
I don't know. You'll ask him when you get there.
Okay, I guess I'll ask him when I get here. I haven't seen him in a while, but he'll be here. But we do have with us Noam Dworman, the owner, the proprietor of the world-famous Comedy Cellar, the arguably greatest comedy club in America, in the world, perhaps. It's been called that, and I don't think that's...
So you guys want to hear something that's fun? I'm just reading about this now. So, it's great to live in the 21st century. So, there's this Fox News lawsuit. We talked about it last week with Ilya Shapiro. And don't confuse my opinion. I'm not defending the duplicitousness of Fox News and whatever was going on. But there's larger principles. Just like when you defend the Nazis' right to march, it doesn't mean you're defending the Nazis. You're defending certain principles. So I had this theory about why I thought Fox shouldn't lose the case based on what I know. I'm like, well, why is nobody saying this? Why? And we had Ilya on last week, and I didn't really get a clear answer from him either, like where I was going wrong. So I looked up the law firm that defends Fox.
Yeah.
And I found the lead counsel. I said, fuck it, I'm just going to email this guy what I think. So, but I put a mail tracker on it. You can do this where you can track who opens your email or not. So I just sent this email out to this guy. It's 2 paragraphs to this guy at, I don't want to say the law firm, but it's public information. But I sent it to him. And then, lo and behold, this email was opened 6 times over a 5-hour period yesterday, implying that maybe it was sent, forwarded, or maybe he opened it 6 times, but whatever it is, somebody looked at this email 6 times yesterday. Now, I don't know.
Are you
maybe they say, get a load of this. let me read that dumb email again. Can you believe this? I mean, I don't know what that means.
Well, what did you say in the email?
I'm not going to go into I'm going to spare. Yeah. But the point is that, like, not that long ago, that kind of interjection into a national thing, it was just like you could just sit at your desk and say, let me see who's this line, and just boom, you just send him an email, and then you can check that he read it, and you can follow the email too. Anyway, so that I live for these things.
I know, you're so excited.
Well, maybe you'll change the case. I didn't introduce, of course, Periel, our producer.
Thank you. Here I am.
And producer. So that's what she is. She's a producer.
And then another thing happened. So do you remember when we had Benjamin Wittes on, and he looked down the end of his nose with his glasses at us when I was saying I thought Ukraine was more likely responsible for the bombing of the Nord pipeline.
Right.
They say no, only a major state could synchronize a high-tech operation. I'm like, well, why would Russia bomb its own pipeline when Ukraine would want the pipeline? Remember I said, well, you don't understand international relations. I'm not being totally fair to him, but I'm not being unfair.
Right.
And sure enough, in the New York Times yesterday, all the intelligence believes now that it was a Ukraine-oriented group that bombed the pipeline.
You like those clips I sent you, huh?
Oh, yeah. And the same thing with that dumbass Will Wilkinson. Go look at clips where he was like, yeah, COVID can easily be stopped if we just blah, 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 blah. And that didn't work out so well either.
Well, maybe you should have more confidence in yourself. And maybe some of these experts we invite on are not so expert.
Well, I didn't mention the ones I was wrong about that.
Okay. Did you all do your homework assignment? It wasn't officially a homework assignment, but I suggested, strongly so, that everybody watch Chappelle's special.
You mean Chris Rock's?
Chris Rock's special. But you can also watch Chappelle's special.
Edit that out. Edit that out. Racist comedian Dan Naturman.
Well, you could look at it that way. You could just look at it that those are the 2 biggest acts now.
Why would anybody look at it that way?
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I suggested that.
I did watch it. I watched the last 20 minutes of it.
I watched the first 40 minutes of it.
Selective outrage is what it's called. It tops Netflix top 10.
I sampled the first part. I was in a hurry, but I'd heard those jokes, most of them.
Workshopped here?
Yeah, workshopped there. But the last 20 minutes is, by all accounts, is when he got truly intense. And absolutely, it's true. I mean, you see it in his face. That's not method acting. I mean, he was really feeling the emotion of what he was saying. I found it very powerful.
When he was talking about Will Smith, a slap heard around the world.
Yeah. Also, the part about his mother having to have her tooth removed by a vet.
Oh, in the old days,
In
where
the old days
a
when-
black woman couldn't go to a white dentist.
when a black woman couldn't go to a white dentist, and all the progress. I mean, he didn't say the word progress, but that's the implication of now his daughter is sipping, coffee in culinary school in Paris, and his mother flies out to meet her every so often. I found that extremely moving. And whether he meant it to be or not, I'm sure he has ambivalence about it. In a certain way, one can't deny it was a positive note about America, even if at the same time it's highlighting a negative thing about America. That kind of progress in one person's lifetime is astounding, and maybe unprecedented in the history of any country. Not that I'm any kind of expert in world history, but it's probably unprecedented in any country in the world.
Periel, thoughts? Is there a new GOAT? Can we declare Chris Rock the GOAT of stand-up?
Was Chappelle previously the GOAT?
Well, I don't think there's such a thing as a GOAT, quite honestly. I think it's a silly notion because there's so many different comedians doing so many different kinds of things.
No, I'm not going to declare anybody the GOAT, but
It could, I think there's many comedians that are very, very good, but people have said that.
but one has to give Chris these props. He didn't talk about it for a year or very little. He orchestrated, or it turned out that way, and maybe it wasn't orchestrated, a very, very powerful, a live thing on Netflix, holding it off until then. I mean, the whole world is talking about this.
Right.
In a way they wouldn't have been if it hadn't been a live show. I saw some dumb reviews like, why did it have to be live? But it's very powerful that it's live, because a live event...
Did you see it? I didn't see it live.
No.
I watched part of it live. I thought that the way that he handled this was really impressive and kind of brilliant. There was a part in the special where he said everybody's a victim now, right? But there are all these people with paper cuts, I think, that saying, "Oh, I'm a victim," and he really took this and he really flipped it in the best way possible, especially for a comic or him specifically.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was pretty fucking impressive, including the fact that the whole world is, beyond the performance, the strategy of the whole thing, and that it all came together and it all worked, is pretty impressive. You can't lay a glove on this guy. This is flawless execution.
Well,
Yeah.
he was told to keep Will Smith's wife's name out of his mouth, which he did not do during the special. So I don't know that there will be any repercussions. I suspect.
Oh yeah, and when he was calling Will Smith a bitch, that was intense.
Did you call him a bitch?
Did you watch this?
Yeah, I watched it.
He
I
called him a
remember
bitch
calling-
like 6 or 7 times.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well, he's saying that people call him a bitch. Everybody.
No, he
called
was
him-
saying he was talking
Yeah.
about all the other people that were calling him.
Yeah, but by the way he was doing it, is obviously that he was calling he was like, I'm not, and he called you a bitch. Like it was.
And then he said what everybody has been saying for a year is that, but he hit me because I'm small. Because I'm smaller than he is, which is what people have been saying all year.
He says
that he-
Will Smith played Muhammad Ali. You may find it shocking. I didn't even audition for that part.
Josh Johnson,
Hey, Josh.
I barely recognize.
Well, let's get Josh's take on it. Josh
Well,
Johnson.
first let me introduce Josh, I guess.
Hurry, 'cause I have to go. Go ahead.
You have to go at 6.
I know. No, I have to go at 5:30.
Oh, you do? Yeah. Well, Josh Johnson is apparently a big deal. He's a stand-up. I mean, I know him from here, but he's an Emmy-nominated writer, performer, NAACP award winner from Louisiana by way of Chicago, currently writing on The Daily Show. Comedy Central's most watched comedian ever with 40 million views to date across their platforms. His new special, Up Here Killing Myself,
All right, before we go
It's
crazy,
available on Peacock. That's the intro.
he has the same bio as Paul Mercurio, except Paul Mercurio did win the Emmy. So
Well, I don't think. And he
There
looks.
we go.
The last
Wow.
I saw Josh Johnson,
I try not to think about the Emmy. This is
if we may talk before we get into
Yeah.
Chris Rock, if we may, the last time I saw Josh Johnson, he looked completely different, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would recognize him.
his
Yeah.
hair, his hair.
a lot of people did not.
Yeah.
It was.
I recognize his voice.
Yeah, deeply hurtful. To the idea,
No.
because when you think about it, it's like I had an afro, and then I had my hair braided. So it's not like I had a beard. So it was still my whole face.
Yeah,
was still out.
I don't think you look that different.
But then everyone, no one recognized me. As
White
soon
people
as
and black people.
everybody were like, oh, it's you. I was like, oh, jeez. Oh,
It took me a
God.
second.
I
It-
clearly
it's-
haven't been
well,
making
well,
an
I knew it was
impression.
you because you're the guest today, and you walked in,
Yeah,
but so I figured, well, that's got to be Josh Johnson.
yeah. But if we were downstairs,
If we were downstairs,
Yeah.
I would have said, I may not have
Yeah.
recognized. It's quite possible I would have
seems
said,
like a nice guy.
"Hey, name's
Talks a lot
Dan."
like Josh Johnson.
Well,
you
as
know?
soon as you open your mouth, I would know it was Josh Johnson.
Okay,
because
there
your
we
voice
go.
is exceedingly distinct.
I think there's something about the way the mind works that it files things in ways to make it easy to recall. So if you've got a big afro,
Yeah.
then that just becomes like the shorthand for
Yeah.
Josh Johnson,
Yeah.
And then, but you don't just have a big afro. You also don't have like a huge nose or a scar or
Yeah.
other than that, your face is pretty
I've been called
mild,
this one I didn't even know how I feel about it for quite a while. My buddy called me an artist rendering of a black person, and I was like, jeez. And I don't know. So many people didn't recognize me that I don't know if I can say he was wrong.
I recognize.
By the
it
way,
within a
I don't
second.
know. Much like with Jews, I don't know that you're supposed to talk about noses and black people. As with Jews, there
No,
is
I
a
wasn't
con-
talking about black people nose. I'm saying you don't have
Yeah,
a
he was
huge
saying all the
nose or a
things I don't
scar
have.
or
Yeah,
I
if
understand
you
that,
had
but
stopped
there-
at nose, it would have been weird.
There's a
if you had,
stare-
if you had just
but
been
there-
like, yeah, big nose. Anyway, what else
But
is going
I'll
on?
just to be clear, I didn't in the slightly mean it as a classic black feature. I
No,
just
no.
meant like things that, like I said, a thing that somebody could have on
Yeah.
their face,
Yeah.
which would replace the afro in terms of something you remember.
No, you were just listing things.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
fair
yeah,
enough, but
yeah.
I'm just saying that's how like if you're talking about a Jewish person and talking about their nose, I would say, ooh, easy does it.
Yeah, but black people, to be fair, black people aren't even known for big noses. They're known for like flatter noses, right?
Yeah, like
Easy
wide,
does
like
it.
Wide noses, yeah.
Wide,
Yeah.
wide,
Yeah.
wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wide is a form of big, I think.
No. Anyway, so this is very important. So because I have to go, I won't rewind the whole thing. But I just said some very positive things about Chris Rock, not just about the way he performed, but also for the execution that culminated in this basically worldwide event and attention with the live. I mean, I could not be more impressed with the way he pulled this off. I don't know what your thoughts are on the whole.
I think that it was very smart not to say anything right away, because then you don't want to say anything that it's already a situation where so many people are split so many different ways that you don't want to say anything quickly that's going to like solidify someone's opinion of how it happened, and people actually want to get your take. And I think withholding that take until you had a forum to say it that you also want to bring people to is the best possible. It's honestly like there are very few people who are in comedy, at least, they're incredibly good at promotion and making an event and then delivering on that event. And I feel like this was one of those times.
Yeah.
Because I think that, for all of his like faults, insanity, all the stuff that's wrong with him, what like Kanye did with Donda was kind of like that. It's like, okay, everyone knows that my mental illness spiked when I lost my mom. This next album is not only dedicated to my mom, it's supposed to be like this whole like culmination of everything my mom and I went through, and it's about her. It's named after her. It's like and I'm getting all my friends on it, so it's got all these features. And then we're gonna do listening parties, and we're gonna do listening parties in arenas, so then you, the audience, get to decide what's gonna end up on the final album. And it just became this whole huge thing.
Right.
And I think Chris did a version of that with the slap, where it's like, as a comic, you have to test stuff out. So he knew versions of jokes he might do about it were going to leak, and it was all just enough to keep people talking and it was all just enough to like win people over more to what he might say, because he said the "I'm not a victim" thing really early.
Right, yeah.
So I think he had that on lock, as far as like when you think of a special in recent years and you think of something around it to promote it, there's been nothing like.
Noam, did you say you heard some of the Will Smith stuff workshopped here, or was that all kind
A
of?
little bit. I don't remember specifically what I heard. But he did talk a little bit about it here, but he never got intense.
Yeah.
That was really something. That was
Yeah.
powerful. In my opinion, that emotion was all real.
I think it was real. Yeah. I think it was very real.
Like, I wonder, even, did he plan to throw the mic at the end, or was that just the way he felt?
I think it could be both. I think that he is now. I think it's been 3 specials where he's like mic dropped at the end. This one included.
He didn't just drop it; he threw it.
No, I'm with you. I think he knew he was gonna like do something with the mic at the end, but yeah, maybe throwing it was like, all right, this is like spur of the moment. Does that make sense? Because in Tambourine, he just like, flicks it out of his hand and walks away. But in this one, wow, I was like, oh wow,
It was pretty riveting. I'm really, really impressed with Chris Rock today.
I really like what you said about like getting all of your friends on it, to like the
Yeah,
comparison to Donda, because it's true. And even when I did watch it live, the first half of it, and when Ronnie Chang was saying, every comedian's here who's ever owed Netflix a favor.
yeah.
And all of Chris Rock's like friends, and everybody had such beautiful things to say about him, as they were opening for him, and it was really nice like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Josh, I'm having dinner tonight at an event with a Baroness. I can't talk about it.
You can talk
A
about
Baroness,
it.
and I got invited to this, and I'm not gonna lie and say I got invited just this week, but I never reconciled my calendar, and I realized that it was this week, and then I saw you were the guest, and you're one of my favorite people and one of my favorite guests ever. I'm like, oh fuck, Josh.
Oh,
He's gonna
no,
be
it's all
insulted that
No,
like
no.
in some way I
You
didn't
gotta
think he was
live.
important enough to. But I would have actually canceled the podcast if I. But anyway, so that's it. So we made it a half an hour earlier, so I could spend some time with you. But I'm not gonna be able to stay. No, but we'll have you on again if
Yeah.
you want to have it me. But
Yeah,
anyway, I'm sorry.
Who's this
No,
Baroness?
it's all good.
The Baroness.
And how
I don't want to take time away from Josh.
Yeah, let's hear about your special.
What's going
Forget
on?
Chris Rock.
Oh yeah.
we got
yeah.
plenty of time with.
Yeah, right up there with Chris Rock. So my special came out on Peacock a couple weeks ago, and it is a split. I turned to some interstitials at certain points, because the hour that I did came from an hour of talk therapy that I then sort of pulled everything out of it that was funny, and then wrote the bits to it, and then made the show. So then you'll see sort of in chunks. The section will start with me in therapy, either being asked a question or like talking about something where I'm not really sure how I feel, and ending up on stage where not only do I know how I feel now, but I actually have a joke and a way to sum up the entire idea. And so yeah, that's the basic gist of it.
Now, there's an entrepreneurial aspect to it, which is you shot it yourself.
Yeah,
And you
with
took
the
a financial risk.
Yeah. So I went to Jacob Anacci, who directed it, and yeah, we came up with a budget together and everything, and yeah, it's oof.
That's
yeah.
scary.
No, it's terrifying. Yeah,
And wait, so you're part of this is you in therapy
yeah,
with an actual therapist, or with like somebody that with
No, it's
Todd
been
Barry or
recreated.
something?
No, it's been recreated. It was not my actual therapy session, because I think that would
But it's based on
would
your
have been
actual-
sad. Yeah, yeah.
Now, what is the demographic profile of your therapist, if you don't mind me asking? Find this
So I've had many therapists, and so this is the representation of me going to a white woman. This is my thing with whether it's like physical or mental, right? I personally like, and it's not the need, like if something happens, like if I get hit by a car, I'll see anyone, I'll see any doctor, whatever. But if I'm just going for the sake of going, I find I do like to go to a black doctor, and if I can't get a black doctor, I like to go to a woman. the reasons for that is that I don't know if you've heard about this in medicine, but there was a long held belief that black people just felt less pain and like all this other stuff. So it's like at least a black doctor will be like, oh, I know what this is like when you're complaining to me about
Well, a
something.
doctor
you know?
it's an intimate thing to be with a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could understand why you'd want to be with somebody that you might feel a little closer to, and a
just share
therapist
experience.
in particular.
Yeah.
Because a therapist knows your life better, and
Yeah.
also, I've seen Jewish therapists. I would be, what if I had an issue with that was stereotypical? Like, say, I'm arguing with my boss about money, and I want to talk about that in therapy.
Well, I was gonna say,
I would feel odd saying that to a non-Jewish therapist because in my mind, he's thinking, oh, these people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
No, I'm
you,
with
as a
you.
black man going to a
Yeah.
black therapist,
Yeah.
would I would think would be a lot better.
Do you prefer a black man or a black woman for a therapist specifically?
I do find that just in my life, black women tend to be right. So yeah, black woman helps the most. But when if it's just women in general, like physical or mental, I do find that the same way that there was the black thing of not feeling pain or not being taken seriously or whatever, I think women also have that as well. So it's like when it's black woman, it's double fold. But like, for instance, I went to a doctor I had to get an injury checked out, and she walked in and it was a pregnant white woman. And I was like, thank God. All right, you're going through a whole bunch of stuff that like now all my pain seems valid.
So
to
your
you.
current therapist is a white woman,
My last therapist was.
and your current?
My current, I'm out of
Oh, yeah,
therapy
yeah,
right
okay,
now.
okay.
I'm in between therapists.
I went to I have a black urologist who performed my vasectomy,
we've heard
Yeah.
this story, yes.
and apparently he thinks that white men can't feel pain, but at least he put that to the test.
Yeah. Oh God.
But no, he was great. But I would say just about the therapy. If I were you, like if I'm just as I have no right to this opinion maybe, but just I would want to go see a black woman, and this is my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to go see a white person, let alone a white woman, because if I want somebody to call me on my bullshit, and let's say, part of that bullshit is, I thought this was racist or whatever, no white therapist is going to dare question you,
Sure,
they're just going to be so afraid, especially in today's climate. So you just like to remove that thing so that if somebody thinks that, you look at it this way or whatever it is, you only a black person would have feel the total freedom to say that to you. And a woman, because a lot of things that you might be talking about might have to do with the opposite sex.
Sure.
And I would always prefer to have a female therapist who understood what it is that the opposite sex is thinking.
Yeah.
Than another dumb dude like me who's like,
No, I feel you.
bitch is out of her mind.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think that I would go see a woman therapist. But the question is, how would I feel about going seeing a black woman therapist? Would I think that would be an issue? I think it wouldn't be. I don't think it works the opposite way. I don't think it matters so much.
Is there anything you're uncomfortable or were uncomfortable talking to your white therapist about? Like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this in front of white folk kind of thing.
Not really, because I feel like this is the thing, I guess, is that a lot of white people, especially when you're in a white country, tend to take all of their knowledge and be very academic with it.
Yeah.
So not saying that there's no human element added to their therapy and how they work with patients, but they can be very direct because by and large, potentially, you talk about like 77% of the country or whatever is white. A lot of the people will already have that shared experience built in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so then there wasn't anything that I was like particularly uncomfortable with because I was like, all right, let me just see if there's anything like wrong with me. So then I just lay it all out there. And then when you find out, sometimes you're disappointed to find out there's nothing wrong. Like sometimes you're like, because it means that you're not as you're in your thoughts unique as you thought you were, right? So there's some sort of solace.
But what brought you there? If there was, I mean,
oh no,
if there
just
was
being told that there were certain things I was feeling that were normal, or being told that there was like a way that I looked at things that was actually how most people look at it. You know what I mean? Getting that.
But what brought you to
validation
the
overall.
therapist in the first place? I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I just think, I think that in the world, there's problems, right? And if you aren't careful, your problems become everyone else's problem, or your problems become a deeper problem for you.
Right.
And there's enough problems that we can't do anything about that I was like, I don't want to do anything extra. And so then that was the initial thing. But like, luckily I grew up in a family that this is like not necessarily indicative of, like, it's just not as common in a lot of black families, but my family always believed in therapy. And so they basically, even when I was a kid, I went to a therapist for a little while, which is one of the things that encouraged me to go to a therapist later in life on my own, you know, because it didn't seem stigmatized or weird to me.
But you were probably always a kind of sensitive, very smart kid. Almost like the profile of a kid who goes to therapy. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just
You're not wrong.
No,
Yeah.
Just fucked up.
Yeah.
why? No, because he's obviously
no.
gifted in some way, and
No, I'm with you. I was
Yeah.
exactly that thing. Because even when I went to therapy, I was like, man, I think, like, there were I've been to a couple therapists where I was like, man, I really could have sat down, had a good think, and missed this whole thing. You know what I mean? Because, like, especially when you've gone for a while and you, like, know some of your habits.
Do you
and
love
everything.
going to therapy? Like,
it depends.
It depends on the therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I actually look at going to therapy. This is just me personally. I look at therapy like going to the doctor. So I don't know if this is good or bad, but personally for me, I only go when I start to feel sick.
Right.
I don't
right.
just go for the sake of, like, I'll just go 52
for
weeks out of the
maintenance.
year. Yeah, I don't really go for maintenance.
I got to go. This is a fucking good conversation, and I got to go.
No, we'll do it again.
But we'll do
Well, I just want to hear a little bit about the Baroness and why.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I think that's of some interest.
let me read the invitation real quick.
You don't want to be the first one to show up either.
No, but I don't want to be. I want to be on time.
You want to be fashionably late.
Introduce our good friends, Baroness Philippa Stroud, David Stroud, Arthur Brooks. Philippa, a member of the British House of Lords, and David, a senior leader of Christchurch, London, are founders of Forum, a London-based network of senior leaders, exists to serve senior leaders, influencers, and blah, blah, blah.
There's a lot of mumbling going on.
Because it's long, build bridges across traditional sectors, boundaries, create community, to fight poverty. I don't know. It's
Wait,
like
why are you going to this thing?
I was invited. I don't.
But you get invited to things all the time. You
because
usually say no.
No, the woman. I don't usually say the woman who's doing it is a very good friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good friends doing it, and a Baroness is going to be there. I don't know. I'd go.
Well, I don't know what if Baroness mean what that means nowadays. You know, I hear you could buy for $50 you send away and you become like a lord in Scotland or something.
Yeah,
Well,
but that's a land thing. That doesn't
It's
mean
a land thing.
This is old money.
I hung out
know?
with Princess Beatrice one night.
From the Netherlands.
No, isn't it Beatrice, the redheaded one? She's related to the royal family in England. She came to the Olive Tree one night.
Beatrice.
Isn't it?
Maybe I don't know.
And she's like 3 removed. I don't know. And she was just like a normal person. So, wasn't that big a deal.
I know. Okay, fine. Okay. Well, anyway, enjoy your dinner with the Baroness.
Have a crumpet for me.
I mean, now that Prince Harry is talking about applying lotion to his dick and thinking about his mother, I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have quite the same esteem for the royal family.
No, the sheen off these people is really.
Yeah, it's really brought them down a peg, you know? It was either going to be like an overall revolution or just Prince Harry's book. Like
Hello, Baroness. I wonder if you'd like this vibrator.
yeah. Everybody getting real.
All right.
familiar.
Thank you, Noam Dworman, having dinner with a Baroness. That's why he's dressed up. I guess you're going with Juanita, I assume.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Lord, are they going to introduce you as you?
Afro.
Are they going to introduce you when you walk
Brand
in?
new me.
When you walk in, are they going to introduce you? Presenting Lord Noam and Countess. Well, anyway.
I always only wanted a gay therapist, a gay male therapist.
Really?
Hmm.
The thing is,
And I think that Jackpot is a gay male black therapist.
I don't know why
Really?
that would be a jackpot.
is
but-
it just from life experience plus being a therapist?
Yeah,
Or like you're
just-
saying perspective plus therapist?
Yes, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like my OB, and this was not planned, but my OB, when I was pregnant, obviously was a gay black guy, And I was
But why does that make it? You felt that was a
It does-
superior choice?
Yeah, I do actually, because I think that I have had the experience on multiple occasions with, straight male Jewish doctors, older white men. And there's something a little bit condescending.
Well, I don't think you need to go full on the opposite of that. How about just a woman doctor?
I've had horrible experiences with women doctors. I'm sorry. I've had great ones too, but I feel like
Well,
I'm going.
all right,
I'm
if
going.
that works for you. My main criteria is when I see their diploma on the wall, none of it is in Spanish.
Why
I don't want to see Universidades de Guatemala.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We now go to Mexico to get the stuff
Right.
done because we don't have health insurance. So it's like those doctors are starting to look more.
Well, they
and
might
more
be
appealing.
good, but I still have my old world prejudices, and I want
And
to
you're
see
sticking
because
to them.
because a lot of people go to med school now. If you're from there, say you are from Mexico or
Yeah.
Guatemala, in this case, is the case in my example, and you went to school in Guatemala, I guess that makes sense. But Americans, oftentimes when they can't get into any med school in America, they will go to med school. Is it a little chilly in here, by the way?
Oh, I don't.
Oftentimes we'll go to med school overseas. There's a med school in Granada. Remember, there was like a war we fought over there because. Anyway,
so you're worried about Americans in other countries
Americans
getting
that
their
go-
degrees
in
and
other
coming
because they
back?
couldn't get because a lot of times they couldn't get into any med schools in the United States. So they
Yeah,
went.
but it won't be valid when they come back, right?
I don't know how that works, but yeah, I think so.
No, I don't think that's right at all. I feel like I've had so many Uber drivers that used to be doctors.
Well, I don't know about
you
that.
can't
I'm
practice
pretty sure you
medicine.
can. You have to take the boards and pass the boards, but
That's what it is. Yeah. So then the people you're talking about, if they try to come back and they already weren't good enough to get into med school here, a lot of times they don't pass the board
okay.
when they come back. So I feel like this system is working potentially.
I feel like if you can learn another language well enough,
No,
to go
these
to
med
medical
schools are, I think, in English geared toward taking Americans' money. I don't think these are med schools that are in Spanish or in whatever language. I think these are med schools
Yeah,
that have
what
a English
he's talking
program
about
for
is-
Americans that want because they want our money.
It's absolutely cheating what he's talking about.
Okay.
Like now that you've explained it, I totally see what you mean. For a second, I thought you just meant like, man, if my doctor's from Spain and he was a doctor, this is all. Ooh,
Yeah,
no.
well, I guess what I said could have been misconstrued.
Yeah, I realize now you're talking about
I
Americans,
meant Americans.
who already tried
Yeah,
and did not.
Is
And
that
then,
really
you
a
know?
thing?
That's a thing. Sure, it's a thing.
No, it really is because I've known people who couldn't get into medical school, and so they just kept trying medical schools until they got into one.
That's insane.
Rather than just learning more. Like so
Right, rather than learning more.
Yeah, they're like, oh, okay, I couldn't get into this school, and just truly going down because especially if you come from a family of doctors, there's maybe either going to be an inclination or expectation to become a doctor yourself.
Sure.
And so now whether you were partying or whether you just haven't picked the right type of medicine or whether you just don't have the interest, it's now time to apply and you either don't have the grades or you don't have the just the acumen overall. And now it's like, all right, what do I do? And then you try. Then you go overseas and try to learn something.
Josh, if we could get back to your special.
Oh, sure.
Obviously, you didn't. You don't hit the same topics as Chris Rock hit in his. Well, maybe you do hit some of the same topics. Wokeness, of course, is a big topic these days.
Yeah.
I don't know if you hit that. What topics would you
no.
say some of the main ones that you hit are?
I talked about not growing up with money. I talked about relationship with my dad and everything, losing my dad, and then I talked about how I had a stalker. So it's like
Is a stalker recent?
not anymore technically. So luckily by the time a little while after I did the show, it was really winding down. But yeah,
That's terrifying.
it was really rough.
Was a woman.
I don't know who it was because it was all happening like online, and it was someone who was like, basically they were threatening me for quite a while, and then they'd obviously make fake accounts because I was blocking the other
Oh,
accounts.
there was a threat. It wasn't just like, I love you, I want to have your baby.
No, it was like, you're gonna
It was
bleed. It's like I'm gonna come kill you.
And did
it
they
was
give
like,
a reason why they were angry at you?
I can't speak to their mental state, but all I know is
I
they
can, not
think that
good.
they're me.
Mm-hmm.
So then every time I had a thing happen and like posted about it, I think it like shattered that illusion, and then they were like attacking me. But then they thought that they were. It was very weird, because then also the messages they would send didn't actually make sense. The only thing that was like in any way intelligible was the threat. So it would be like a long thing, and it would be a bunch of things that didn't make any sense at all, like whatsoever. And then it would be like, "But I'm gonna kill you," and it's like,
You
all
don't
right,
have any
well,
idea
that
who-
sentence made sense.
You don't have any idea who this individual is? Did you go to the
No.
police? They weren't able.
No,
to,
we went to the police, and yeah,
they weren't able to ascertain the identity of this
Yeah.
individual.
Because even with the threats, they're like, I think the most they can do is collect them, but they can't, like, we were sending screenshots to the police and stuff like that, but the most that they can do is just like, all right, we'll make a note of it. But
That's
You would,
all-
I mean,
uh,
you would think there's a way to get an ISP address
Yeah.
or something. I
well,
mean,
it wasn't that helpful, because then they ended up telling us, the person that we were talking to about it, because we were like, can't you? Here's an account that looks like their main,
Mhm.
and that's the one that initially they were like coming at me with until I finally blocked them. And so then they were obviously making ones, and it's like, if it's just been made and there's like a fake email attached to it, you're never going to find who this is, whatever. But the main one, they were like, oh, okay, this person is either in DC or Lagos. And I was like,
Well,
that
that's-
doesn't help
doesn't-
at all.
doesn't help
That's,
at all.
oh my gosh. And it was like, yeah, because they may have been using a VPN or something, because now VPNs are more popular.
Okay.
And like, so it's just by default, I think a lot of that stuff is harder to track down, because more people are savvy to, like, maybe you bought a VPN because you want to watch Canadian Netflix because there's more stuff you like on it, but then it does end up helping you out if you want to be crazy.
I haven't seen you here in a while.
No.
Have you been busy with the Daily Show or
Doing a little bit of touring, yeah.
Oh, you've
So-
been on tour.
Yeah, so I've been on the road. I'm on the road all year, really. Next 3 weekends of the month. So I'm going to Kansas City this weekend, and then South by
Do you enjoy
Southwest.
that?
I love it. Yeah,
You love the
it's
road.
great.
You're lucky. I envy people that love the road, because there's I get so, no, I can't do it. And I've sort of configured my career around one-nighters, where I go do a Jewish community center in Long Island, or I do a country club in New Jersey. I'm doing a fundraiser in Baltimore for a school district down there. So it's one night, and it pays pretty well. But the weekends at clubs, I can't. It's too much for me.
Did you ever like
I
it?
never liked it. Did it? Never liked it. Get lonely. The cold hard reality is I don't like stand up. Please, somebody buy me out. I'll sell my whole act. I've said this before. My initial thought was that I'd get a TV show or something.
Well, and I keep saying you might.
Like, do you want to act or do you want to write?
Yeah, one or the other.
Oh, one or the other. Okay,
But doing stand up, it's stressful. It stresses me out.
sure.
I find it very stressful.
Yeah. I find it. I do like. I don't get nervous the way I used to get nervous anymore, but I do find myself getting a little getting butterflies again. I think now it's just because I have to have a new hour, because now I'm touring and
Yeah.
stuff, and the special just came out, so then it's like not doing any of that stuff, and then luckily I was already building up the hour.
Also, I don't write that fast.
Oh,
I
I
just
feel
don't
you.
write that fast. I feel that's because my jokes are the way they. I don't want to make excuses, but there's only so many jokes about my cousin Sheila I can come up with. Jokes about, if you're familiar with my act, about shit that never happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And rather than just the new, in a matter of fact, talking about the news of the day or the issues of the day, which I suppose if I had to come up with another hour, I would do that.
But you could also talk
Like,
about
how many jokes
yourself.
about my fucking ninth grade sex ed teacher using his real penis to demonstrate how to put on a condom can I come up with?
But that's only because you talk about things that didn't happen. If you talked about things that did happen, it would be endless.
Right. Well, but
That would make you more
stylistically.
vulnerable.
Stylistically, it wouldn't be as consistent. And I do filter through my own lens, But stylistically, it wouldn't. I mean, Noam used to tell me, "Well, just do some jokes like that and some jokes like
Yeah.
that are more matter of
Also,
fact."
you-
But stylistically, it would clash. Like if like Stephen Wright just went from "My school colors were clear" to, "Hey man, it's crazy what's going on with Kanye." I mean, people like, well, they wouldn't fit together.
Yeah, but I do think that you end up in a different space when you're pushed there versus wanting to go there on your own. So like if something happened one day where just for whatever reason you couldn't do any of the jokes that you wrote anymore,
Then I'd have to
you
go
know,
in a different direction.
Yeah, but I think that you're more capable of doing it than feels comfortable. So then it is a slower process, if that makes sense. Like for me, I didn't think, I remember when I wrote my first hour, I didn't think I'd have another hour. And then, eventually whether the thing, even if you don't have a special come out, even if you don't do an album, the thing that ends up making you have to write more is that finally, out of all the times you've done stand-up, a place that had you headline wants you to come back. So now it's like, yeah, maybe it's been a year and a half, but especially if people really liked you, they're going to come back again. And that, I think even before I ever had a special, was my reasoning to be like, let me always be like playing with something. And then as I played more, I wrote quicker. So it's not even as if, it's not hard to write a lot. It's just that the thing that gets me nervous now, the thing that I have the butterflies for, which is good, but it's like all the new stuff that I'm doing has like a little bit more. I think it would surprise people what I'm doing based on what I've done. And it's like my attempt at evolution, but it's also just things that are on my mind. And so then to your point, go in this different direction, but also have it be new. It's like there's always a little bit of fear there.
Another motivation to write is, of course, your own sense of I hate telling these jokes because I'm sick of them.
Yeah, you get sick of them whether you've recorded them or not. And if you have enough going on, this is not a diss on anyone who isn't writing a lot, but it's like if you have enough going on in your head about something, eventually you do want to get it out. And I feel like having a written joke is a way of getting it out. Like to your point about having the therapist, it's like I started working on a thing a while ago about how I only really want to take dating advice from lesbians. Because it's like they're the only ones who like get it. Like they get what I'm going through, because they also date women, but they also are women. And if you don't finish that Punnett square and go straight across, you're getting bad advice. Because even I cannot tell you how many times I've been close to a woman, like a very good friend of mine, and then maybe this is like when I lived in Chicago, right? Close friend, I was telling her about some dating troubles I was having, and she cannot imagine being me, so she just plugged herself into what the other woman did. And I was like, you know me. How is this also? How have you also turned on me now? I'm not even saying I was looking for a specific answer, but then just to what Noam was saying, it's like you also can't go to like a single dude if you have a relationship problem.
That's usually not a.
You will lose your home. You know what I mean? And so it's like having a lesbian is just a way to be like, all right, you are a woman, so you know how my girlfriend might have felt. But you also date women, so you also know what women can be like to date. And so then that's the only like objectivity down the line that I think you can get as like a straight guy.
So if you were going to go to a therapist with a relationship issue, you'd have to go to a lesbian therapist.
Yeah, I would just take whatever my therapist said with a grain of salt and be like, bro, you don't know. Like, I think personally, because therapy and finding the right person is so much like dating in a sense. Like a lot of people feel trapped, like they go to someone because their insurance takes them or whatever, and then they're like, well, this is my therapist, and if they kind of suck or they don't seem to listen or they clearly have their own,
well, you might not know if they suck.
No,
it
takes a while
because it might take a while that they're doing something that you don't quite understand, but yet you'll feel better or you'll improve in the long term. But you can't necessarily analyze that straight away. How would you know?
Well,
if they're doing things or guiding you in a direction that you don't quite see?
Well,
You
I
may not
mean,
know immediately
it
that they're
shouldn't be
helping.
that like it's not like it shouldn't be that fucking mysterious though.
Well, they go to school for 9 years, so I assume. I mean, unless you're in accord with Noam that they really have no special expertise.
No,
in anything.
I'm not in accord with
Because
Noam at all.
that's Noam's belief
Right,
about therapy. But if they really are, they go to med school for 4 years, I guess, and then they go.
I don't think therapists go to med school.
Well,
for 4 years.
psychiatrists.
Yeah, I'm not talking. I'm
but
talking about
even a
psychologist.
Well, my niece I think she went 4 years and then a PhD takes another 2 years. Whatever it is, it's a lot. So that you can't necessarily know what they're doing because.
But but I mean, you also need to vibe with a therapist.
Yeah, you gotta vibe. You gotta vibe.
There has to be that's the other reason, to be totally honest, and maybe I'm revealing a little bit too much here. Why
you already talked about your the anal fissure a few episodes ago. So.
But I discovered very early on that I needed a gay guy for my therapist because I couldn't bear to walk into these offices that were just so heinous and poorly designed. Like I couldn't take it that seriously if I walked into a space that just looked like it was like dusty and
Well, straight men can't get a gay guy to design their office?
Well, I mean,
or they just haven't.
But also, you don't want somebody who might potentially try to sleep with you.
But do you think then? So this is I want to get your opinion on this because of where you end up leaning towards. I want to get your opinion on this. I think that with good reason, but also I do believe it's happening. When you not in an identity politics way, but just in a way that ends up being the way the world is. When you are dealing with people, it's petty, but we all have it. There's a certain aspect of us where whether you are placed in this Venn diagram of identities that doesn't like when the one this far away from me is right. So and I'll admit to it, as a black person, sometimes I hate when white people just right.
Okay.
I'm just like, God damn. And you can hear it. You're like, oh. And they'll be right about something you wish they knew nothing about. Like if a white guy walked out and was like, this is what the black community needs to do to raise just to raise their financial awareness and to have more money flowing through their community. And he's just right. And you can hear him being right.
Yeah.
He sounds right. There's still going to be a part of you. And some people let that part of them take over and don't want to listen, where they're like, I'm not going to listen to some white man about money and telling me what to do with my black money and whatever, right? And then I think that there's a thing even with obviously with men towards women, but also with women back to men, where it's like, I've watched it. It's like, I was raised by women, and it's like sometimes women just hate when a man is just right about something. And so it's more comfortable to get the exact same advice from someone who looks like you or someone who you don't feel threatened as if they're going to talk down to you, but it's the same advice. Anybody can yell fire in a building and they can be right. But the idea, I guess that's what I feel like, is that sometimes problems are so apparent and they're so urgent that I don't care who is the person to sit me down and tell me.
But a lot right now, we hear a lot on social media, as a white man, as a straight man, as a cis man or whatever, stay out of the conversation. That we hear that a lot right now. People say, well, you're not entitled to an opinion. You're not entitled to speak. You need to listen. That's sort of a overarching theme that we see now, I think. Would you agree, Periel? We see that a lot?
Yes, I would agree that we see that a lot.
So I think what Josh is saying is that, we shouldn't think that way. If somebody's got an opinion, we should listen to it and judge it on its merits, which would seem to me the obvious.
I mean, that's my thing. Is this is the reason I said the white black thing, right? Is I was having a conversation with a friend who something like this kind of happened, and they were annoyed, and I was like, and this is when I lived in Louisiana, and I was like, we are both poor, so a poor person is not going to come tell us how to make money,
right?
We need a rich person, and we may not like who that rich person is, but as long as they're right, we will make money.
Right.
So at a certain point, you can't have this I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying at a certain point, I think it's becoming a thing culture wide, where instead of having more openness than the historical white man had towards women being right or people of color being right or worth listening to or having good points. We've actually expanded that point of view. And it's like, well, if a white man's not going to listen to a black woman, why should a black woman listen to a white man about anything? Because some of that talk of like, you need to listen, whatever, I think a lot of it does end up getting directed at people who don't know what they're talking about. And
Of course,
and
but a
just
lot of
need
people,
to, you know what I mean?
the people that don't know what they're talking about of all race, creeds, and color.
Yeah,
a black
yeah.
man might not know what they're talking about a black issue, and a white man not, or a Jewish man might not know what he's or she is talking about a Jewish issue. But the idea that somebody should be, because they're not in the affected group, should just sit down and shut up. They should be sensitive and respectful and understand that it could get, that their opinion, is coming from a certain place, but their opinion should be allowed. I should be allowed to express my opinion on reparations, for example,
I think
without being told, shut up and stay out of the conversation.
Yeah, I think that what ends up happening is when you are too close to something, it is actually harder to solve the problem. And every once in a while, the problem is solved by someone who does not have a fight in they just
Right.
they're not in the game at all.
Right. So it is true that you can get great advice from anyone, right? Like you might get great advice from, somebody who you would think that fit the complete opposite profile of who you want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've certainly had that experience as well. But if you have to just, throw darts and say, like, if I could pick anyone,
Yeah, sure.
like, this is kind of
Oh,
the profile.
well,
And I've done that and I've been wrong, too.
We live in a
right?
world where we can hear a lot of opinions. You go on Twitter, and I'm happy to hear anybody's opinion. If somebody has an opinion on anti-Semitism, and you're not allowed to define anti-Semitism if you're not Jewish. No, I don't think that's true. I think you can't tell a black man what racism is. Well, again, I don't think that's true either. I can give my opinion. My opinion might be out of my ass, and you're welcome to tell me that it is.
Because the thing that I think ends up happening more often than not, especially now that everybody can talk and everybody can talk to everybody, is that it would be like going to a couples therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a couples therapist will still not know the ins and outs. They won't know who's lying. They won't know who's embellishing. They'll just watch the dynamic of you two. You'll both say your piece, and they'll offer up their best exercises to mediate, But it would be like if you didn't like that therapist's advice, saying to them, well, you're not in this relationship.
Right.
So you don't get to, and it's like, but they're exactly who needs to say something and have
Right.
an opinion and offer up solutions. So I just find that if there are fewer ideas, that I have no problem with people talking about how the spectrum of ideas can be 80%, 90% bad. I fully believe that. Everyone being allowed to talk and everyone not choosing to read is not a great thing.
Not a great
You know what I mean?
thing.
But I do find that you end up getting more ideas in the same way that jokes work, where sometimes your friend says something and it is not even funny, but it gets your mind going towards a thing that is funny. A
Right.
funny thing came out of a not funny thing. A good idea can come sort of out of an idea that either doesn't work or a straight up bad idea.
But I think that in therapy, and I had a therapist that I was friends with, actually, a psychologist who I didn't see. And she told me this many years ago, and I never forgot it, that when you're going to therapy, you're spending all this time and all this money and all this energy. In every session, you should have like at least one kind of aha moment, like
Mhm.
something you should.
Well, if
this-
Something
if
should
that's the
spark.
way therapy works, it may not be the way therapy works. I don't, I mean,
Well, I think the whole point or part of it is to get out of your head, right? Like we create these narratives.
I really don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're up to.
You don't know.
Like
Have
a
you ever been to
fucking-
therapy?
Yes, and I don't know what. And yes, I
Was
have.
it talk therapy or
With
was
talk.
it? Yeah.
And how'd it go? How long did you go for, first of all?
I don't want to get into my therapy history, but I don't know if it worked or not. But I just assume that they're doing shit that I didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I don't think that's
like
it.
a fucking mechanic is fiddling around in my car.
No.
And I don't know what he's doing, Josh. But I wasn't trying to keep it tight, but I did want to. I think it's put a nice bow on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about different people having opinions, and Chris Rock mentioned at the end of his set. Spoiler: if you don't want to know what he said at the end of his set, then don't listen. But he said, well, he's been asked why he did not fight back against Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, because I have parents, and they told me don't fight in front of white people.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a common thing?
No, I've never heard that in my life, but I think that also it's part of the.
Is it shtick, or do you think that really is what he was
I mean,
taught?
I think that may be how he feels, and I'm sure that someone in his life maybe said something along those lines, but I still think it's mostly for the sake of the joke.
But the reason the joke works is because it resonates with the audience.
Yeah,
The black people in the audience were laughing, and the white people too, and I assume it's because they get it. I assume some of them have been told that, like, you behave yourself. As white people, we need to be on our best behavior and
but
comport ourselves in a certain way.
Yeah, but I think that there's something to be said for, like, you don't not fight someone because white people are there. You don't fight someone because people are there. So I think that if it's a lesson he's trying to teach the audience, I think you just say people. If it's a joke he's trying to tell, I think that you say white people. Does that make sense? Because it's like
So you don't think that has any base? You don't think Chris really believes that you shouldn't fight in front of white people, or that played any role in his decision to just stand down?
I think when you look at his whole body of work, it makes sense that, and it leads you to that joke. I think if you look at his actions that night, I think it leads more to, like, in my opinion, let me not mess up my money, or like I don't think that, Will Smith smacked him and then he was like, I'd hit him, but Meryl Streep is here. Like that doesn't really resonate with me as much. And when I saw the joke, I just thought it's like, oh, funny way to end it. I didn't think like, oh, he's right, we shouldn't be fighting in front of white people, or like, I think that caring about.
Do you think any good could have come of him? I mean,
hitting Will back.
Hitting Will back.
I don't necessarily.
If he
think
could
so.
have dropped Will with one punch, that would have been something else.
It would have, and then he would have still had to bring up the nominee.
Can you imagine Will Smith?
Poor Questlove.
Can you imagine Will Smith is laid out on the stage, and then Chris goes, "Now where was I?"
Yeah. It'd be a great moment for comedy. It'd be very
and Will
weird
just laid out, and Chris goes, "Okay, let's bring up our next president," and the dude is laid out.
Yeah.
In front of him. I mean, that would have been kind of amazing. It wouldn't have happened because I don't think Chris is capable of laying out.
Yeah, I think
Will
when
Smith.
someone's got like 80 pounds on you, you're not going to knock them out hard.
Chris made that point in the special, spoiler alert, that, he said, you might not realize this, but Will Smith is significantly larger than me. It may not come off that way on TV.
Yeah.
But he played Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't audition for that role.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe he said I played Pookie and Will didn't audition for that role. Whatever it was, one of those two. I'm cold in here. Is it me? Maybe my.
I mean, maybe you're not dressed warmly enough. You're wearing a.
I don't know. It's not. I have a jacket on.
Yeah, I have
so
a
it's
sweater
not as
on.
cold to me.
In any case, Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson,
Hey.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Noam's favorite person. I'm quite fond of you.
I appreciate it.
As well. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you.
No, it's not a big deal. I didn't take it personally. You were the 500th person
Not to recognize. Both blacks and white people.
Everybody is not recognizing me now.
Until you talk.
Yeah.
That's
then I say it's Josh, and they're like, oh, yeah.
So his special is on Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I killing myself? Is that
Up here
killing myself? Yeah. Why am I killing myself?
That would be a Jewish mother special.
Is on Peacock streaming.
Yeah.
So thank you for being with us, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Will we be seeing you here more often because you're going back out on the road?
Yeah, I'm gonna be out for most of March, but then I plan to be
March Madness. Everybody, with Josh Johnson, Periel, of course, she's always with us, but we thank her, and Nicole Lyons behind the scenes. Thank you, Nicole.
Anytime.
We'll see you next time, and Noam will hear. Perhaps he'll have some interesting stories about his dinner with the Baroness.
And you can find us online. You're at Dan Naturman.
Yeah, but I'm at.
And I'm at Periel Aschenbrand. And Josh is at Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson Comedy on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Goodbye, bye.
Bye-bye.